The worst thing for me is to feel unprepared. You know, I've been thinking so much about this over the last couple of weeks, and I've been feeling completely unprepared in a lot of ways. And you know, I can compare it to, like, imagine if you're a musician, for example, and you're making a record, right? You have this opportunity to make an album, and you got a bunch of songs, and you know, you have melodies and words, and maybe you figured out the chords on a guitar or on the piano or something like that. But you're not really prepared. You're not really prepared to go into the studio and make a record. You know, you haven't figured out the bass parts and the grooves for the songs and what you want the drummers to play. And if you're gonna have horns, you don't have horn arrangements, and you don't even have the right musicians hired yet. You don't have any musicians hired, and you know, you don't have the keyboard parts, you don't have the samples, you don't have anything. You know, you don't know what microphones you want to use. You don't have an engineer, but you've got access to this studio, and there's a deadline to get this thing done. Maybe you got a deal and somebody said, here's some money, go figure it out. Or maybe you have a great idea for a movie, you know, if you're a filmmaker or an actor, and you have this great idea, and from start to finish, you know, and you can kind of envision it in your head, but you know, you don't have a storyboard, you haven't really gotten a proper screenplay together, so you don't have a script, you haven't hired actors, you don't have locations, you haven't thought about, you know, wardrobe, the colors that you want, you haven't thought about the weather and what that's supposed to be like, what times of day you need to shoot. You haven't really thought about anything, but maybe you have a deadline. You know, you got to finish by a certain day to either submit to a festival or, you know, maybe for some kind of a gigantic grant or something like that, but you're not prepared. And that, like, I can't think of a worse feeling than being unprepared. But then I think about, what if I did, you know, prepare properly, you know? What if I, you know, finished these songs and wrote out all the charts for the bass players, keyboard player and the guitar players, and I figured out everything, all the background vocal arrangements, you know, I figured out all my horn arrangements, I figured out the microphones that I want to use, the type of recording that I want to make, you know, I just figured it all out, you know. I got the right studio chosen I picked a Neve board because I wanted a certain type of sound as opposed to an SSL, or I didn't want to just record all digital, I wanted analog, and really prepared, you know. Or in the case of my film, I did do a storyboard, I did write a proper screenplay, you know. I hired the exact actors that I wanted to get, or maybe I'm the only actor in the film, you know. I've worked out all of the stuff in terms of the weather that I want, the times of day, when the sun comes up, when the sun goes down, how much time I have to shoot. Figured out the lighting that I need, the interiors. I got all my locations together. I got my, you know, I licensed all the music that I want. I got my composer together to get the score done. I'm totally prepared. You know, from A to Z, I got everything. And then I think about, I finished the record. You know, what if you finished the whole album? You got all the songs done. They came out exactly how you want. You know, the background singers came through and learned all the parts. The guitar players had the best feel that you've ever heard in your life. Keyboard players knocked everything out. You had an incredible horn section. You had like the greatest drummer in the history of the world. You just killed it. And these songs that you created, that you wrote from scratch, that you thought of out of nothing, you know, like something just coming from God, came out exactly the way you wanted it to come out. Or like in the case of your film, everything worked out, which is like a miracle for a film. The weather held up for you, all the locations worked out, everything happened the way you wanted it to happen. The actors were amazing. You captured these incredible performances. You know, you used all of your anamorphic lenses that you chose to get the exact look that you wanted to get. You got the greatest colorist in the world, all your editing. I mean, the whole thing just turned out perfect. You got the colors right, you got everything right. You worked so hard to get it done. It took you 2 years to get your film done. It took you 1 week to get your record done because you had a deadline. whatever the case may be, you had it done. You got it done. And yet, I think about, what if all of a sudden you got it all done and now you're ready to share it? You're ready for whatever the possibilities are of finishing such a involved, incredibly difficult and challenging project, but something that has been perhaps the most fulfilling experience of your life, you know, of not only your creative life, but of your life in general. You know, you're like ready to put out this project that has been, you know, something that means everything to you, you know. You've used everything that you've learned, you know, as a creative person, as an artist, and now you have it. It's finished. It's ready to be shared. It's ready to be put out into the universe. It's ready to be your contribution, part of your legacy. I mean, that's something that I think about so much, you know, like often when I'm working on a project, I try not to fly anywhere unless I have to fly during the project. I try not to put myself in any situations that are like situations that make me vulnerable, because I'm like, oh my God, please just let me finish this project, you know. And then when I get it finished, I'm like, oh my God, don't let anything happen to me, or don't let anything weird happen in the world, because I want to share this. Now I get the opportunity to go into a theater or share my album, put it out, or, you know, whatever. Like, it's done. I put in so much work. I'm so proud of what I've done. Please don't let anything destroy this moment for me. And so right now I feel like I'm, you know, in a situation which is kind of like all of that, you know. I have projects that I just finished. I have projects that I'm just beginning. You know, I have stuff that I'm just preparing for. I have stuff that I gave my entire life to get finished, and stuff that I'm so proud of. And yet, imagine if you do all of that and then everything changes, you know? Imagine if like something happened, you know, like some life kind of event, somebody, you know, somebody important to you dies in your life and all of a sudden nothing matters to you, or you get into some kind of an accident, you have some kind of disabling injury where you can't suddenly support the work that you did, or something, you know, like culturally happens, and everything that you know, everything that you believe in, everything that has been your world where you live is now changed. I feel like I'm standing in some gigantic field, you know, like some huge, you know, gigantic, you know, thing of nothingness. You know, I feel like I'm standing out here and like I know that like a satellite's going to fall out of the sky, or a comet, or some kind of asteroid, or some gigantic rock is going to fall. Like I've been told it's going to fall. I fully expect it. I know it's going to happen. But I also know that no matter where I go, no matter how far I run, no matter how far I drive, no matter what I do, I'm going to get hit, because this thing that's falling is far-reaching, you know? It's going to put a hole like 3,000 miles deep across where I am in every direction. It's going to hit me. Can't get away from it. And so I have all this stuff done. I've lived my life in the way that I'm used to living it, you know. I've accomplished some things that are amazing, and I'm like looking forward to new things that I feel like could possibly be amazing, and yet I feel like I'm just standing here waiting for this to happen, and I'm totally unprepared for it. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what that feels like. I can't even fathom getting hit by an asteroid. You know, I can't even imagine what it would feel like for something to hit the ground and explode all around me, and all of a sudden everything's different. You know, is it going to burn? Is it going to blow? Like, I'm unprepared. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what to do with all this stuff that I've done. It kind of paralyzes me to continue to move on with the new work that I'm doing. I don't know what to do with the work that I've done. I have all these opportunities. I have all this stuff going on. And yet I feel paralyzed because this comet, this satellite is about to fall from the sky and just crush everything. That's kind of what I feel like right now. And I don't know what to do. You know, I don't know how to fix that. I don't know what, And I don't even know if I'm right. Like, whatever's falling out of the sky, I can't see it, you know? I can't look, all I see is these clouds, it's overcast, you know? Like, all I see is a beautiful sky, a beautiful field, you know? I don't know what that feels like. That's never happened to me before, you know? I've never experienced that before. It's happened elsewhere before, you know? Things have fallen out of the sky. Places have had earthquakes, tsunamis, you know, places have been totally destroyed by wildfires and mudslides, and it's happened before to other people, but it's never happened to me where I live. It's never happened to me personally. I don't know what that feels like. I don't know how that affects everything. I don't know what it feels like when everything stops and you have to start again somehow. Or if you can even start again, like, I don't know. I don't know what that's like. I don't know how to fix that. I don't know how to prepare for that. I don't know what to do. You know, I'm just sitting here and I'm just kind of waiting. And you know, everybody around me thinks it's kind of funny, or they're just completely ignoring it, you know. And I don't know. I don't have an answer to that question, you know, that when you finally, you know, you hear your charts come to life and you have this amazing record, or your screenplay, your idea, this thing that you thought of one night when you couldn't sleep becomes a fucking movie. And all of a sudden, you ain't even really thinking about it. You don't know what to do with it. You don't know anything. You just know that something is about to fall out of that sky. And you know it's coming. And that's probably the only fact that you know, but you don't know what that means. There's no end to this story right now, because I don't know, you know. All I could say is one of the best creative experiences I ever had, I worked on for 6 years. It was a play. And I wrote over 250 endings to that play over 6 years. I wrote every single day. I performed that play all over the world. I workshopped it for 5.5 years until it finally was running off Broadway. And I remember my director, Stephen Bishop Seeley, said to me, "Can you finish this fucking play?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "Yo, you're opening off Broadway. Like, you've written a million endings. They're all brilliant. They're beautiful. Everybody loves all of them. Just pick one. Just finish the play. Like, people are coming. They're spending money. This is a big moment. This is off Broadway. You're here at the 45th Street Theater in New York City in Midtown Manhattan. You're down the block from all these gigantic other plays. Like, finish it." And, you know, and I'm like, well, I don't know. You know, like, it was a play about my biological mother who I had never met. And I couldn't write it. We're going back and forth. He's like, "Just pick an ending. You've written so many endings." And I'm like, I don't really know what the ending is. Like, you know, and he's like, "Just pick it." And finally I'm like, "Yo, there is no fucking ending. There is no ending." And Stephen looked at me and he went like this. He just got up and he smiled and he just walked away. And he walked out of the theater. And that was the ending of the play. That there are no endings, you know? That sometimes there's just whatever's next. You know, you complete a period of time that you're in, and then it just keeps going. And when you think about it, that's life. You know, when people die, other people are born, other people survive them. Like, there are no endings. So I don't know the end of this story that I'm telling today, but I know that I'm sitting here kind of like waiting to see what happens. And I don't know if that's a good way to live, you know what I mean? Like, you can't just sit there and wait. And so I guess I'm just continuing on doing the work that I do, but yeah, that's where I'm at.